Hi, Jeff Koenig here, Property Prep Milwaukee, Wisconsin, your service provider for outsourced janitorial and maintenance services. Wanted to show you our trucks today. We're going to look at mine and the emergency medical gear that we carry on this truck. On the back of my seat, this is where the majority of the emergency medical lies. Since it's raining outside, we're going to take this inside to the bench and tell you more about what we have. Now that we're out of the rain, I wanted to discuss the panel that we took off the back of my seat in more detail and some of the other things that we left behind. Back in the truck, we obviously had our basics that are on all of our trucks, which would be a fire extinguisher that's rated for the type of vehicle. If it's a hybrid vehicle, I believe you'll need a different type of fire extinguisher. And we have OSHA required first aid kits. On my truck, I went a little bit farther because of my training. I have a background as a lifeguard, 2 years acquiring those certifications, as well as continuing education through a TCCC, Tactical Combat Casualty Care class, and some other training to keep up on that. So I had the misfortune or fortune of stumbling upon a pretty bad traffic accident and gunshot combination a few months prior. We'll link down in the description to where there is a link to the ceremony where I received the Milwaukee Police Department's Meritorious Conduct Award for my life-saving efforts in that incident. Starting out, you should always have a wool blanket. This is good in any sort of climate that gets cool. In the United States, someone in every climate zone should probably have this on their vehicle. A wool blanket is great if you get stranded on the road, like those people in Pennsylvania did a few years ago. It's great if you slip off the road here in Wisconsin, and it's great to cover someone up if they are experiencing shock or hypothermia, and also a clean, relatively clean place to lay tools or equipment out if you are dealing with something catastrophic. So that would be the first thing that I keep on my back seat. And then we'll move over to the back panel of my driver's seat. This is important to have on the driver's side because that's where you're exiting, and this is a quick grab and go. Let me share this panel with you. The most important thing that we grab, and we have boxes of them on our trucks because of doing maintenance, are a set of nitrile gloves. These are good in case someone has a latex allergy, but this is the first thing you put on if we're going to deal with an injury of another person. If you're dealing with an injury on yourself, it's probably not essential, but if you're touching anyone else where there could be a communicable disease, put on your gloves. The next thing we always want to have is a light source so that we can identify an issue in the dark or inside of a vehicle. It does get dark even if it's not dark outside. So I have two sources of light here. I have the Streamlight ProTac. This is a white light, and you want to have a lithium battery in there that'll last throughout the extremes. I also have this Streamlight articulating military style flashlight. This is great because you can set it down on things and it has an adjustable head. The beauty of this light is that not only does it have white light, it also has red light. And if you're dealing in a situation at night, you always want to have red light because that will allow you to maintain your night vision.
Going dark.
If you are worried about situational awareness, you always want to use your red light. The next big things, and this was a lesson that I learned from the incident that we had, was that everything needs to be accessible for extrication and for addressing the patient very quickly. So everything that I have that is a tool that could become airborne is tethered. I used a Black Diamond carabiner and I tethered it with 550 cord. These are the North American rescue shears, which would be used to remove people's clothes to identify a wound. When I was working on the gunshot victim, this is what we used to remove the clothes. I actually used Leatherman's Raptor shears, but they were so covered in blood and I didn't know the history of the patient, so I left them there with the police department. Those are superior. They're sort of the gold standard. They collapse down, but if you're not going to buy those, buy something high quality, because when you're cutting through jeans or leather belts, it's really important to have something like that. We tether everything not only so that we can find it, but if you were to have a rollover or be in really bumpy terrain, you don't want these things flying around and becoming weapons inside your vehicle. We have 2 other miscellaneous carabiners for other tasks that may be required. My second tethered piece of equipment is the channel locks. I don't know what the exact name is. I'll link all of these down in the description. This is the number 87 rescue tool. And I don't use the oxygen and fire hydrant tools or whatever these things are. These are for firefighters. I don't know anything about that. But one of the things we did have to do during this accident was disable the horn from the vehicle. And I was using my dikes that we use for electrical. And these are really heavy duty cable cutters and great for cutting battery cables on a car to disable the horn. That horn was going constantly after the accident, really difficult to relay vital stats on the patient, as well as difficulty contacting first responders, maneuvering fire apparatus, and dealing with, there was some criminal activity involved in the shooting that needed to be addressed as well. So this is an essential tool to quiet the scene down, because no one wants to work with a honking horn in the background. And again, this thing is really heavy, so we're going to tether this down so that it doesn't hurt us. Next on the outside is if we are in a storm or an area. We had monsoons the last 2 days here, really bad rains, and we get ice storms here. I don't carry anything except my little Sawzall, and if you don't carry a big saw like a chainsaw in your truck, which most people don't, it's dangerous, it smells, and the electric ones lose their charge. This silky saw is really a great saw in an emergency to remove an obstruction in the road and to be able to get to an emergency. So the silky saw is definitely something that I would recommend. Not really a first aid item, but something that you should have on your truck regardless. If this video gets enough views and likes, we'll show you what's in the back of my truck, and we have more equipment for getting into hard to reach places, as well as recovery equipment for the vehicle. This is a holdover from the pandemic days.
No, don't take me back.
An N95 mask. We use them mostly for dust now. We have big respirators when we're dealing with chemicals or other issues airborne, but it never hurts to have an N95 or an N100. I noticed that after the accident, I never replaced my glass breaking device, and you should have a way to break glass. I have one that's in my center console in my vehicle, so in case there's a rollover, I have a way to extricate myself from the car, but it's a good idea to have a second one. They're really cheap, and that's something you definitely want to have. On the inside panel, I have a fixed blade knife. This is the Cold Steel SRK in SK5 steel. Keep it oiled so it doesn't rust. And this is a very heavy, I think it's designed for military survival use, but it's heavy enough that it can do some serious cutting, and you never know when you need a knife in an emergency, and this is definitely, for the price, about as good as you can get for this type of knife. We can do a review of, if you're interested, of knives that I like and don't like. Leave a comment down below on your favorite fixed blade, and if you want to see what I carry in my pocket, we'll put a card up here to my EDC video, which not enough of you watched. So I think it's pretty unique and not the average one you see on the internet. So on the inside panel, this is a product I've never used. This is a North American Rescue emergency litter, part number 600080. I will link this again down in the description. This would be used in the event that we had a casualty on a construction site where an ambulance was not able to reach because of the terrain. Sometimes we work on pre-construction sites doing cleaning or other other tasks before the road is put in or before the pavement is, and those large trucks can't get down those driveways and those streets. So if we had to carry someone out in emergency who did not have any sort of fractures or spinal injuries, this would be a way to do it with several people. I think we're done for the inside. On the outside, we have a tourniquet that is staged. Ooh, this is really stuck. That is not the right pocket to put that in. This tourniquet is important because it has a metal windlass. I would recommend the North American Rescue Gen 8s. This is not one of them, but this does have a metal windlass, and the metal windlass is the most important part because when you're cranking down on a large bleed, this is the failure point usually. So make sure you buy a tourniquet. Make sure you have ideally one for every one of your limbs, and that at least one of them is in a place in your car that's reachable in case you were pinned down or in case the car flipped over. So you should have one at least. I have two of them in my center console, and I think that is really important. I have a roll of 3M tape, and a cigarette lighter fits inside of there. And while that's not necessarily an item that you need for first aid, it's always good to have fire scattered throughout your systems because you never know when you need that or a cutting blade. Next to that, we have a set of hemostats. If you have to use these in an emergency, the chances are without suction, you're not going to be able to use them effectively to stop a bleed, but you should carry them anyway. They're inexpensive. You should buy high quality stainless steel. The Germans make the best, but more realistically, you're going to be using your hemostats. You're going to steal them and use them to try to fish something out of a small orifice somewhere when you're working on an appliance. But it pays to have a pair of hemostats on your rig. On the front pocket, I carry 2 Israeli bandages. Israeli bandages are compression dressings, and the beautiful part about these is they have the gauze and the bandage that are integral. They'll put pressure on the wound. This would be used on something that is not an arterial bleed or on the arterial bleed after the tourniquet is applied. Some of these have an inner packaging that need to be removed. So you would want to rip this package open, take the inner packaging out so that they're staged, and then put them back in the wrapper. Have an extra airway here that is from the IFAK that was used in the gunshot environment and never got used for that, so that didn't have any blood on it, so I kept it. I have another tourniquet that's still in its wrapper. It should probably come out and be staged, but this is the way it is. That's my third. I think for other things on the outside, I have a full IFAK. And this is a concept that comes from the military. IFAK stands for Individual First Aid Kit, and this all rides on a piece of Velcro, and this whole piece, as we showed you, was on the back of my seat. And the important thing when you're selecting a pouch for your IFAK is that it's able to be ripped off. In the emergency situation I was just in, my IFAK was actually military surplus and was laced into this, and I could not remove it to bring the stuff to the patient. This MOLLE webbing is the easiest and safest way to secure things to the back of your seat for an inexpensive price. It is like under $20 on Amazon. I will have a link for it. This one's held up for about 5 years, and it comes in whatever color you want, but I would recommend black. Important things on your IFAK: if you are injured, you want some sort of identification that this is first aid, and the red helps with that. This is ripped off by this handle. Red or the other alternate color on any sort of pouch usually means this is a portion that does something. So this handle will remove it, this handle will open it. If we want to go over it, I'm happy to do that. I can also just list the contents right here of what's in this. But the important items that are in here are another tourniquet, gloves, a chest seals, you have a SAM splint, and I think if you were just to only get a few things from this video, it would be to have a complete IFAK, which will link down below, as well as some sort of light. If you're only to have two items, this and a flashlight would be a good start. Probably the glass breaking tool as well. But these are the items that I have. Other things that are not included here and that I've experienced in my life that have been pretty scary is I was dating a girl who was allergic to bees and got stung or didn't know she got stung and developed a little bit of a rash and took a shower, and by the time it was dinner time, I was carrying her into the hospital. So if you know anyone who has allergies or you have access to an EpiPen, keeping an EpiPen in your vehicle could save someone's life. And then I also just really want to thank everyone for getting us pretty close to 500. My hope is that this video gets us over the finish line. If you would take the time to like, subscribe, leave a comment. If I missed something and if you carry something different or you want to see a certain type of video, put that down in the description. We really appreciate it. If you think this is something that someone else you know should carry, or someone else carries this and they want to tell me how their kit's better, tag them or send this to them. We'd love to hear from them if they're kind. If they're not kind, we'll still hear from you. So leave a comment. And the other thing that I wanted to discuss is this type of video is getting a lot of traction for us, and I'm not sure we want to be a gear channel. We really want to highlight all the amazing work that our channel does. So I'm going to pop a description up here for the time that we took a landlord's property and took it from a hoarder house that was getting $900 in rent to moving it into a luxury apartment that's getting $3,000 a month now in rent. And those videos are thousands of dollars to make and take us hundreds of hours of recording and so much blood, sweat, and tears. We love sharing that with you, and we would really love for you guys to embrace those videos, because those are the videos we really want to make going forward. So love my gear. Gear is one of my favorite activities. I like to have always new cutting edge stuff and the best stuff, but our business really is helping people maximize the value of their properties through preventative maintenance and through outsourced janitorial in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So if you know anyone who needs those services, send them our way, please. PropertyPrepLLC.com. Link is in the description below, and we really appreciate all your viewership.